The next method we want to create here is the functionality to create a course. And we just come to the controller, public function store. So in a previous lesson, we already created a data object for storing courses. And we just pass that here. So store course data and data. We haven't defined anything in here yet. So let's go and populate this store course data with the parameters or the properties that we expect to get from the client. The first one is the title of the course. So public string title. Just duplicate this. We need a subtitle. We need a category. We need a subcategory. So these are the fields that we need from the user when they initially create a course. And in the validation rules, title will be required. Subtitle will also be required. Category will be required and it should exist in the database. So it will be required and it should exist. So we're going to call exists, category or categories, and the field that we are looking for here. In this case is the hash ID. Because remember, we are passing through hash IDs from the front end, not the actual IDs. So here it should exist and it should be a hash ID. Subcategory, it should also exist and it should be a hash ID and it's required. So this is the data that we expect from the user in every request to create a course. Over here in the controller, we are receiving the data and we can just call the store course action, which we already created, run, and we'll pass the data that we are storing over to that action. So in the store course action, we expect to get the store course data. And this is where we are going to actually create the course, okay? So how do we create a course? It's easy. We just do course equals course create. The user ID is the currently authenticated user, which we can access by just doing auth ID. The title is, of course, the title from the data. The subtitle is the subtitle from the data. The category ID is, remember that we are getting the category hash ID from the client, but we need to store the actual category ID here. So in this case, we just say category get ID, which is a function that we created to retrieve the actual ID based on the hash ID. So data, so we're going to pass the data category, which is the hash ID, to this function to retrieve the actual ID. The same thing with the subcategory ID. We'll simply retrieve the subcategory from that data object. And that is it. So we can just return the course here, and that's it. When we get to creating sections and lessons, we'll expand on this function. But for now, let's just keep it simple and recreate the course as is, okay? Over in the controller, we can return the course resource, which contains the course that we just created, okay? So if the front end needs to do anything with that information, they can just use the response and do whatever needs to be done. Over in our controller or in the routes file, we need a post route because we are posting the data to the server. And I'm going to call these courses and we're calling the store method. And that's it. So let's go back to Postman and quickly try to create a course. So if I go to create course, we have the instructor courses and that's the endpoint. I have specified some information here for the categories and subcategories and things like that. So I want to actually use categories and subcategories that exist in our database, because right now, if we try to send this request, well, we do get a 422 that the categories that we provide are invalid, okay? Because we don't have categories with these hash IDs in the database. So to do that and to correct that, we need to actually provide categories that contain hash IDs, which we need. So in this case, let's just go to the categories table, and we want to create this course. Let's say we're creating it in the business category. And so the hash ID for the category will be that for business. And the subcategory will be something under business, right? So let's just grab entrepreneurship. And we put that as the subcategory. Everything else is the same. We have a title, a subtitle, the category, and the subcategory. Now let's send that request. And we're trying to load the user ID in the categories table, in the courses table, but we don't have it in the fillable array. All right, so let's fix that very quickly. If we go to the course.php, yeah, we didn't provide a fillable array here, which means that we cannot use mass assignment. We cannot call the create method on that model with those fields because we need to specify which fields can be mass assigned. So in this case, if I wanted to avoid this problem, I can just do course, instantiate a new course. I could just say course equals new course. And then I just do course title equals whatever. And then at the end, I do course save. So that is if you didn't want to, and then I do course save, and that will allow me do it because it doesn't care, it's not a mass assignment. But because we want to use the create method and mass assign these fields, we have to explicitly tell Laravel which fields can be mass assigned. So protected, fillable, and here we specify the fields that we want to be able to fill in to the model. And I'm just going to get fields over. So we want the user ID, the category ID, subcategory, all the fields that we have here, we want them to be mass assignable, okay? Which means we can call the create method for any of those fields in the model. So let's go back to Postman and set that request. And if we do that, now the slug, we are not passing the slug through, which at the moment, well, we don't have it. So let's just specify a slug. And for now, I'm just going to say, generate a slug from the title, okay? And we are going to see how to do that in a more efficient way in a minute. So for now, let's just say we are generating a slug from the title. So if we do that, we go back to Postman and we try to create that course again. Then we have the course created. It's returned to us in the front end. We have the IDs. Again, well, these are the basic IDs because our course resource is just a plain class that returns everything from the database. We will be modifying this later on and selecting what fields we are sending back. But for now, we do have the data coming back and it's coming back in good shape. The record is created in the database under here, refresh, and we should see the course saved in the database. And we're going to come back to enhance this to get resources and to generate the slugs in the course in a more meaningful way.